It's Monday night, and that means the Philadelphia Phillies are not in the NLCS.
Hey.
And it also means Monday Night Football is going to come on tonight. Aaron Rodgers is going to once again hope to survive MetLife Stadium for the third time this season. And we're also going to talk about what's wrong with Grambling. And we got the guy here to talk about it.
He did the
Coming up
Alfred
later.
Hitchcock head turn.
I know, right?
Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah,
dun,
welcome
dun,
to another
dun,
HBCU
dun.
Live. I'm Kendrick. There's Jared Hoffman, still a proud Bulldog, despite their struggles this season. Chris, he saw Stevie Wonder. The question is, does Stevie see him? And then there's Ken Rashad, who says he's still a G.
You are going to hell for that statement.
Yes, he is.
You
Hold on,
are
let
going
me
to-
back away from the
You are
screen so I
going
don't
to
get
hell.
struck.
How am I going to hell
Oh
for
my
that?
God.
How am I going to hell for that?
You know what's actually
Legitimate.
funny? You know what's actually funny? Stevie was moving around because I mean, if you've never seen Stevie in concert, I'm not going to give it all away, but he has his piano, he has his keyboard, and he has this new instrument that's like a guitar on a keyboard. So he's moving around, feeling around for the microphone and his harmonica, and he just randomly just like looks out into the crowd. He said, "What, y'all think I'm blind or something?" And the entire crowd laughing. So I mean, he's been making these jokes his entire life. So maybe Kendrick's not going to hell.
No,
Stevie ain't
no,
blind, man.
no. It's one thing for him to make the joke, Stevie himself to make the joke, but for you to be,
Exactly right.
I ain't saying he going to hell, but I'm just saying you out for that.
I've said a whole lot worse things to go to hell than just that. But anyway, y'all not here to hear me talk about Stevie Wonder being blind or not. Y'all had to talk about college football, and it was a great weekend this past weekend. A lot of great games, a lot of crazy endings. Some we saw. We'll get in that a little bit later. Yeah, but first off, we're gonna start off with our players of the week or who balled out. I asked the guys to go around and think of the players who really stood out on Saturday. I will say somebody picked the kicker that did not make the game-winning field goal in the football game, but we'll get to that in a minute. But Jared, who was your baller of the weekend?
Yeah, so I think I had a lot of great choices at the Division II level. Miles was incredible. Livingstone, who we'll talk about, was incredible in their win against Fayetteville State. Jada Byers was doing Jada Byers things, but I went to the NAIA level because we don't, typically give them that shine. And one team that is really stuck out to me is Langston. They have been one of the hottest teams in HBCU football recently. They just won their third straight game against Oklahoma Panhandle State. They overcame a 17-point deficit and came back to win the game. And their quarterback, Torrance Bartle, is the guy that I wanted to highlight. He was fantastic, had 465 passing yards, had been averaging 200 passing yards per game up until this game, but just absolutely went off and put together the heroics needed to get his team back into the game. Also had 33 rushing yards. For those who don't know, Terrence Bartle was a transfer from UAPB. Didn't get much playing time while he was there. I believe that they also said that he had a stint at Jackson State, but I didn't see any information that corroborated that. But coming from Jackson State and UAPB, where he didn't get much playing time, comes to Langston, a team that has been struggling over the past couple of seasons, not really been able to get over the hump in the Sooner Athletic Conference, but they are firing on all cylinders right now. And I think Langston is a team that I might have to keep my eye on in the lower division.
Yeah, shout out to Quentin Morgan, their football coach, former Jackson State Tiger baseball player. He was my teammate back in the day. He actually started off at Langston as their softball coach and then transitioned to their football coach. And he's been really successful at Langston, say for the last couple of years. But like he's got a player on his hands with Torrance Bardell. Chris, who's your guy for this past weekend?
We have talked nonstop about the Alabama State quarterback situation, which has been up in arms since the injuries that have happened to Andrew Body and Jonah O'Brien. They've tried two true freshmen, didn't work out. So in the heat of battle previous week against Florida A&M, Eddie Robinson turned to a wide receiver, a slot receiver, who actually put some points on the board for him. And this week, Kareem Key, in his first start as a Division I quarterback, did a lot more than that. 14 to 21, 326 yards, 4 passing touchdowns as the Hornets improved to 2-1 in SWAC East play, defeating Mississippi Valley State by a healthy total of 54 to 17. And I know people are going to say, but Chris, it's Val. And you're right. At the same time, in your first collegiate start, when you were brought in as a slot receiver to get your Cordell/Stewart on, that is for you folks of a different generation. If you know Cordell Stewart from reality TV, then you might want to do your Googles. But if you know Cordell Stewart from before reality TV, you know what I'm talking about. But yes, Kareem Key put together a.
I think Chris's Xfinity got him again, man. Xfinity got him again, man. So we're gonna. Oh, there he is.
He's back.
When I tell you, if Xfinity counts your days, but yes, Kareem Key put together an outstanding performance in his first college start, and now Alabama State has some hope, not a lot of hope, but some hope for the SWAC East title. It really all depends on how this Jackson State Florida A&M game goes this particular Saturday.
Yeah, Kareem Key, he actually, according to Eddie Robinson Jr., the previous week said only played a couple of plays in practice at quarterback before they put him in the game against Florida A&M, and now he threw 4 touchdowns the next week. So good performance by him. Ken Rashad, who's your player of the week for you, sir?
My player of the week is the one and only, the man with the sexiest position in all of the football team, Reed Haradine, who was 3 for 3 in all of his field goals, scoring 9 points for the G-men in a valiant but failed effort to one-up Alcorn. Literally, they were up by 1 on his final field goal. But he successfully accomplished field goals of 30 yards, 22 yards, and 44 yards, respectfully. And that 44-yarder, I'm telling you, made me a very happy man, because I just knew that some way, somehow, my G-men found a way to overcome that debacle that we witnessed. And just like that, Alcorn finally decided they found a place kicker who had already missed out on 1 field goal, and he got just close enough. Just close enough. So anyway, we'll get into that later. Reed Haradine, transfer from Alabama, did the thing, and at the very least gave the G-men and all of the Grambling faithful who were in that stadium, including yours truly, Saturday, hope that was taken away from us. Reed, my man, this one is for you, brother. This one is for you.
As you can see on Reed's face, he's really excited about this. So my player of the week is no other than Draylon Ellis, the quarterback for Tennessee State. Had a big homecoming performance against Tony Romo's and Jimmy Garoppolo's Eastern Illinois University. He went 20 for 32, 224 in the air, 4 touchdowns to help the surging, and I mean surging, Tennessee State Tigers climb up the OVC standings with their homecoming win on Saturday. Tennessee State, y'all, they may be a contender this year in the OVC. They may actually get a playoff berth. The first time they've ever been in playoffs since 1999 when Rod Reed was their head coach. They're looking good under that one Eddie George in his first season at Tennessee State. And so I guess we can start right there, fellas. Tennessee State, as I mentioned before, had a big win against Eastern Illinois homecoming. They're currently second in the OVC standings, a place that hadn't been in a long time in competition for a division conference title. So, fellas, is Tennessee State the contender for the OVC, or are they a pretender? Starting with Chris.
Hopefully Xfinity doesn't screw me over while I'm talking, but I do think that this is the year that Tennessee State finally gets over the hump with respect to the FCS playoffs. They still got Southeast Missouri State ahead of them, and that's their I think it's their next to last game in the regular season, or it might be their last game in the regular season. So if they can just hold serve, they have Gardner Webb and UT Martin left in conference. And of course, this weekend they are participating in yet another Black Excellence Bowl when they go visit Howard for homecoming. So this is a good test. This final half stretch is a good test for Tennessee State, but it feels like Draylon Ellis is totally locked in. That defense is still very good. As we've seen, I think they've allowed maybe most of the points allowed this year was to Arkansas Pine Bluff, believe it or not. So this Tennessee State team under Eddie George is finally feels like they've turned a corner, and all they have to do is just win 3 of their last 4, and I think they can do that. It's just a matter of which 3 of that 4 do they win. But that game against Southeast Missouri is going to be the one that tells us just how competitive they are. But if they finish 8-3, there's no doubt in my mind they get an FCS playoff spot.
Cool. Jared Hoffman, you think Tennessee State can make a run in OVC?
Yeah, I do. And Chris, I think you forgot that they gave up 52 to North Dakota State.
That's season. Right. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I mean, but it's North Dakota State. They do that to everybody. But anyway, yeah, I think they can. I think they're executing at a high level. I think it's great to see the way Eddie George has galvanized the troops. They had a lot of losses over the past couple of seasons. Terrell Allen leaving after winning the Buck Buchanan Award. They had a running back who I believe is now at Northern Arizona, who left a couple of years ago. They had some key defenders, transfer over the past couple of years. So they've gone through a lot of roster turnover, but Draylon Ellis has stuck it out with this team, and he's finally starting to reap the benefits of his hard work. He's playing at a very high level, and I'm very excited to see that game next week against Howard. This weekend, against Howard. I think that's going to be a very exciting game, and that one can go either way. It really could go either way, but I think that game will tell us all we need to know about both teams. And but yeah, I do think that Tennessee State could be a contender in the OVC, mainly because the correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel like the conference is very strong compared to years past. So this feels like similar to North Carolina A&T in the Big South in 2022. They have that chance. They just got to find a way to get past the finish line. But I definitely think this is a great opportunity for them to break that stride of not winning the OVC.
Yeah, and I think for me, it speaks to like how long it takes to actually build a program. Eddie George took over in 2021, I believe, and everybody was expecting him to win right away, like Deion Sanders at Jackson State. But every program is different, and Eddie George knew it would take like a couple of years for him to be able to build Tennessee State where it is now. They came close last season to contending for the conference championship. They won 6 games, which was the most they had won in I think like 6 years before last season. And now they're making that next jump. I know the North Dakota State game is kind of like something that they don't want to think about right now because North Dakota State, as Jared said, beats up everybody. So they probably weren't going to win that game anyway. But you could see the progress being made, especially on defense. I think they are among the leaders in forced fumbles and fumble recoveries in the FCS. They've won 2 of their last 3 games on defense by making late stops, by getting turnovers. And Drayton Ellis, who I highlighted as one of my players of the week, he's starting to come on. He was already a highly touted quarterback coming out of Austin Peay. He's starting to play like that highly touted quarterback that they acquired in the transfer portal. So I think Tennessee State, with their schedule, if they can get past Howard this weekend, I think they could really be in the thick of things coming down the stretch. What say you, Kim Rashad?
You know what? I hope they are a contender, but I believe these next 2 weeks are going to be the games that really tell us a lot about just what type of team Tennessee State is. They got Howard next week, and then after that, they have, I believe, UT Martin, if I'm not mistaken, who is also contending. They're also contending for a top spot in the OVC. So I don't want to necessarily rule them out. I haven't seen a whole lot of Tennessee State, but I am rooting for them. But I'm just not there yet with thinking that they can make well, let me say this. They can make a serious run. I hope they do. I just need to see some more wins before I get to the point as to whether or not they're serious. But what we've seen up to this point is pretty promising.
Yeah, I could kind of get with that. Kind of like a wait and see approach to Tennessee State, but they are definitely on an uptick.
Yeah,
right now.
I mean, I'm cautious. Yeah. I'm cautiously optimistic. You know, I'm rooting for them. I really am. But I think these next 2 weeks are going to be a pretty good. I think it's safe to say Howard is a formidable opponent. And is that Howard's homecoming too?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's a homecoming game for Howard. And then UT Martin, like I said, man, let's see where we are in 2 weeks. But then again, let's see where we are after next week, even though it's a non-conference game for them. But I think the next 2 weeks will tell us a lot about what type of team Tennessee State is going into the latter part of the season.
Yeah, so speaking of let's see, there was a football game played in the Division II level that was probably, I would say, arguably the best game of the day on Saturday between Central State and Clark Atlanta. That literally came down to the wire. And our friends at HBCU Go and the Griot broadcast the football game. I watched it on my Fire Stick. Chris watched it on Roku. Jared watched it over the air. Central State had a lead late in the game. Looked like they were going to hand Clark Atlanta the second straight loss. And then that man, the pitcher right there, David Wright III, drove his team down the field. Threw a touchdown pass with only seconds remaining to give them the lead. They went for two. And after that, my TV went to something called this.
They went to Heidi.
They went to Deer Coaster with Panama Jackson. And we did not, at least myself and Chris and some people who were watching the game on social media, did not see the last, 5 minutes of the game or the conclusion of the game. And we were kind of stunned. We were like, hey, where's the game go? No, we had to watch Deer Coaster with Panama Jackson because for whatever reason at 4:30, they had to show this program. They had to show the podcast. And we missed the conclusion. Jared saw it. He was lucky enough to actually see the end of the game. But Chris, who was writing about it, did not see it. So, fellas, what do we think about not only the game itself, but kind of the Heidi portion of the game as well? Starting with Chris, who got to write about this and try to figure out what's going on.
I've been in this business since 2002. So you can bet that I've seen just about a little bit of everything. This is the first time that I can recall covering a game remotely that I have been in the dark for the last 41 seconds or whatever it was after David Wright threw the touchdown pass to Virgil Young. And I was flabbergasted. I was stunned. I was like, how in the heck do I finish writing this story? See, I see Kendrick panicked. He thought I was going to cuss. See, I'm a little better than y'all think I am. But no, I freaked out. I was like, what in the world is going on? Because as you guys can tell by my try-on, I was excited to go see the GOAT up at the Wells Fargo Center in Philly, Stevie Wonder. And I was like, I ain't missing Stevie for this foolishness. But thankfully, the game ended in the score that it ended at when Panama Jackson came on my television set. It was 25-20. And I think more importantly than we need to call out the foolishness right now because in this time and space, HBCU football, HBCU athletics as a whole gets disrespected enough by network television and the media and the powers that be. We got to start doing ourselves some favors, you understand? And I get that the Griot, and HBCU Go, they do phenomenal work. I don't know anybody over there, but they do good work. Not, until Saturday, but that is something that cannot happen. Like they have rules in place where you can preempt a program because we know that sporting events always run long. And it's not a case of, we can move this to another network like ESPN does with, football or baseball or the WNBA finals or whatever. Oh, you can go catch it over on ESPN Plus or ESPNU. The Griot and HBCU Go is it. So granted, Panama Jackson was interviewing one of my favorite authors, by the way, Aaliyah S. King. I stuck around just to see what she was talking about, but I was still salty because I was like, I have a story to write. I have a game to recap. And then I have to get my behind on the road. But it was just, it's it was just one of those things where, again, I've been doing this for going on 23 years, and this is the first time this has happened to me. But as far as the game goes, this wrapped up Clark Atlanta's first winning season since 2008. And for Teddy Keaton, Teddy Keaton has already locked up the Coach of the Year award. Honestly, I don't care who else you give it, who else you think you're going to give it to. There's no one else in the HBCU football that deserves that award more than Teddy Keaton. I mean, this was a Clark Atlanta team that had I want to say a 22 game losing streak, somewhere thereabouts. It was a long one. I mean, no, actually, it was their last game they won was in 2022. So I guess it was probably about a 14, 15 game losing streak. But either way, Teddy Keaton brought in some guys from Allen. Of course, Dave Wright III. And right now, they are very much in the hunt. They are tied for second place with Albany State, and then they play first place Miles this weekend. So we find out just how real Clark Atlanta is. But hopefully, no one else will try to preempt the game or cut the game short for a podcast, because that's a game we need to see in full.
Yeah, Jared Hoffman, you actually saw the conclusion of the game. What are your thoughts on like what transpired on Saturday?
I can't identify with the people whose game turned off. I was actually able to see the end. But
dozens were outraged. Dozens of them were outraged.
I mean, but God closed one door and opened another one. You got to see them interview one of your favorite artists, So it's a win-win. I kid.
I don't think Panama Jackson my favorite artist.
No, he's talking about me. I want to talk about one of my favorite authors. He had Aaliyah S. King on. She wrote a really good book a while back that I need to get back into. But yeah, I mean, like I said, that was just, I was ready to see Aaliyah S. King. I was ready to see her end the damn game.
And if they didn't turn off the game, you wouldn't have seen Aaliyah S. King. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, but I think this was a win for Clark Atlanta, but at the same time, I hope they're not happy with it, because that game should not have been as close as it was. They got very complacent down the stretch, allowing Central State to get back into that game. Thankfully, David Wright is a playmaker, and he has some playmakers around him that are able to cover a multitude of sins, and they were able to go march down and get that game-winning touchdown. But you cannot allow – this is the second week in a row that they have been complacent. They've allowed teams to get back into games. They struggled with that even in their season opener against Fort Valley State, where they allowed them to get back into the game, and they almost allowed them to score a game-winning touchdown. So they have to find ways to finish. They have finished games, but they have to find ways to not be in a position to where they have to finish a game. You know what I mean? So I think they won, but I hope that they're not complacent and that they're not satisfied, because they have a Miles team coming in that is coming off a demolition of Albany State. And they tore up Albany State at the line of scrimmage. So Clark Atlanta better be on high alert of those pass rushers, because they're going to try to penetrate that backfield. And if you are not focused for all 60 minutes of that game, David Wright is going to be living in the turf.
Yeah, Clark Atlanta has had some slip-ups these last 2 weeks after starting out undefeated. So we'll see how that season goes. But Kim Rashad, I got some very strong thoughts about the handling of the situation from a broadcast standpoint by the Griot/HBCU Go. Your thoughts on kind of like how this all played out?
I'm really debating if I need to go there, because up to this point, there hasn't been an explanation given. And as you guys alluded to before we went live, it was probably due to the fact that there aren't enough people who are outraged for them to even take the time to generate a statement. In essence, Byron Allen Media, the Griot, HBCU Go, whatever you want to, whoever you want to call or put in that list, ultimately, whatever the reason was, they didn't give a damn enough about the game to either provide an explanation or to give any kind of clarification as to why it took place, or why some got it and some didn't. And I know what I'm about to say is going to probably go out and is going to probably sound extreme, but this is and it may very well sound somewhat oh hell, I'll just say it. See, I personally have an issue with a number of these so-called these black corporations who are in the business of doing business with HBCUs or in the business of doing HBCU sports. But then yet you've got black-owned businesses, which in and of itself is a good thing, but none of them damn executives attended HBCUs. And I kind of take issue with that. You think that for whatever reason you feel justified in doing business with us, but you know, there's just a part of me that feels some kind of way about it. You know, you know, and I guess, and this isn't, you know, this is, you know, I guess because of where I stand, I've been covering HBCUs since before covering HBCUs became cool. We've been covering HBCUs way before the thought of HBCU coverage even became a mainstream thing. You know, corporations didn't really want to get into bed with HBCUs until George Floyd died. If we're just going to keep it, if we're just going to keep it 100, that's when all of a sudden they became popular. And as as Eric Moore said a long time ago, the great late Eric Moore, he said this: it was the Great America Guilt Trip that made the untimely death of George Floyd, that all of a sudden made HBCUs want to come to become a real cool thing, to where corporations and brands wanted to do business with HBCUs. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. You know, I'm all for HBCUs getting whatever money or opportunities there are there, but this action right here basically tells me that, yeah, okay, we're doing business with them, but you're not all in. And apparently there aren't enough people who are outraged enough to even get an explanation from them. So I'll just leave it at that. But and like I said, it may be far-fetched, but part of me feels some kind of way about it. You know, that just because it's a black-owned business and these are black corporations and black corporate executives that feel somehow justified in doing business with HBCUs, but none of them, now one that I am aware of in an executive position, attended an HBCU. I think there's something to that. Feel free to disagree with me, but that's just how I feel.
Yeah, but I will say though, despite the hiccup on Saturday, like, they've done a really good job with their broadcast. They have Charlie Neal as one of their lead announcers, paired with John Kelly, who's a long-time professional sports broadcaster. I remember John Kelly way back in the day. He was doing wrap-up shows, Chicago,
and I want to make it clear,
stuff
this
like
has
that.
nothing
Yeah,
to do with
but
John
they
Kelly.
do a really good job.
I'm not.
with the broadcast.
Look, I'm not complaining about the quality of the work. I'm not talking about those individuals. I'm talking about the people who make the decisions. I'm talking about Byron Allen, who probably can't spell HBCU. I'm just saying.
I wouldn't go that far to say that. I mean, like, he's definitely invested a portion of his billions of dollars into this project and put black colleges on a platform, aside from ESPN, that they wouldn't have gotten anywhere else. So I think it's a little bit unfair to go after Byron Allen in that regard, because, I mean, like, we talk about ESPN and how they do black college sports. We're kind of like the redheaded stepchild for them. We're just on TV just to be on TV, or on streamers to be on streaming. But like, the broadcast that Byron Allen groups put on, like, it's upper tier, it's upper level. It's not what we normally are used to.
Look, man,
I understand that. I understand they're complaining about the broadcast, but like, that goes into it too. You know, like, if he didn't care, the broadcast.
Just give me an explanation. Just give us an explanation. That's all.
Yeah,
that's all. Just give us an explanation. But the fact that you didn't even take the time to acknowledge it just simply tells me you didn't think enough of it. And that, for whatever reasons, I mean, okay, was it a mistake? Okay, I'll take it back. But this isn't just the first time that I've said this about some of these and it's not just Byron Allen, by the way. This isn't the first time that I've said something about some of these corporate executives who own or who are executives of media platforms who are attempting or are doing business with HBCU media outlets. You know who you are. So I will leave it at that because I don't want to bring us on a downer. Let's move on.
Okay.
But I am very serious about this, though. Anyway,
He's so sincere.
so
It's going to be on TikTok, by the way, folks. That
No, it
rest will
won't.
be on TikTok.
It won't.
It's got to be on TikTok now. We spent 5 minutes on it. It's got to be on TikTok. Yeah, but like moving on to like more football games. The game I really want to talk about, aside from this one we just mentioned, was the Texas Southern football game. And I think with Southern's win 22-19 in overtime over Texas Southern, that they saved their season. Joshua Griffin saved the season for the Southern Jaguars. They were trailing late. They got off to a bad start. The first play of the game was a pick-six interception by Texas Southern. Take it back for a touchdown. And Southern actually trailed late in that one in the fourth quarter. Noah Bodden put together a drive. Got a touchdown reception from Quay Davis, former Texas Southern star who's transferred all over SWAC the last couple of years, to tie it up. They get a stop at overtime, and then they actually win the game on a field goal at the end. So, Jared, I know you were watching along that one. What did you make of that football game, and how you think Southern played in that one? I know they come off a horrible loss against Nicholls State the previous week. How do you think they kind of like bounced back from that?
Ken Rashad predicted that Texas Southern was going to win this game. And if it wasn't for the most boneheaded decision, the most boneheaded execution of a punt that I've ever seen in my life, they actually would have won that game.
Should have taken the 2.
I've never in my life seen a punt be executed so poorly. For those who didn't watch the game, Texas Southern is deep into their own territory, at their own goal line, and they have to punt on 4th down. There's like less than a minute left. Southern, I believe, is out of timeouts, and they have to punt the ball back to him. The punter gets the ball. I believe he fumbles the snap and tries to kick it while trying to get the ball. And he shanks it, and it ricochets off a Southern player. A Texas Southern player tries to recover it, but he's tackled before he can gain the 1st down. And Southern has the ball, in, if not outside the red zone, but within the red zone in that area. One play later, Noah Bodden tosses it to Quay Davis for a touchdown, kick the extra point, game's tied, we're going to overtime. And then obviously Southern kicks a game-winning field goal to win the game after Texas Southern had previously missed the field goal. Southern better thank their lucky stars that Texas Southern absolutely did that, wet the bed. That's what they did. They pulled a Pete Carroll and just fumbled the game away. You take the safety.
Exactly right.
Get the ball, get in shotgun formation, snap the ball, have your quarterback just stand there. When he sees the defense, just back up.
Run out the end zone.
Keep back up. Just keep backing up. Run the clock as much as you can.
Right.
Why do you punt that ball when they're bringing so much pressure?
Yeah.
Don't just take the ball, corral it, and just move along as long as you want. Just make sure you do not go forward, because if you go forward and they tackle you, they get the ball where you land. You stay in the end zone, You give up 2 points, but you're kicking it off to them, and they're
Exactly.
probably starting off in their own territory.
On the other side of the 50. Exactly right.
I'm not a football expert.
You don't
I'm
need
not.
to be. Yep.
You don't have to be.
Nope.
That is just common sense. It's common sense. Some things are just common sense.
And you know what? It is so much. Sorry to cut you off, Jared, but it's so that scenario is so common. It's so common sense. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, it ain't an HBCU problem. That was just straight up lunacy. You know who I blame that on? The Texas Southern Board of Regents.
You might as well just blame them for everything that goes wrong with Texas Southern.
I'm blaming them for this one.
I'm blaming them for everything.
I'm blaming them for this one.
Man, Kim Rashad going after Byron Allen, and he going after the Texas Southern Board of Regents. Boy, he's gonna have a lot of enemies.
We were about 3 or 4 games in. We were like, ooh, maybe the Board of Regents knew what they were talking about. But you know what? Damn it. It happens every time. It ain't an HBCU problem. This is all on the Board of Regents.
Help me, Jesus.
This after I apologized to the Board of Regents a couple weeks ago too.
And this is why Jared said you shouldn't. This is why Jared said you shouldn't
apologize. I told you not to apologize to them.
Remember when we told you they don't deserve no doggone apology? This is exactly why. This is exactly why.
And you know what? Somewhere, Fred McNair saying, "Do you miss me now?"
Because he was on the other sideline, probably thinking like, yeah, you could have had me. Could have had me.
Anyway,
it's Alcorn saying that though, but I mean,
we'll find that out this weekend.
We will.
And speaking of Alcorn, they came up with a big win over the weekend in the hole at Grambling on a game-winning field goal. Say what?
I said them country bastards.
Man, Kim was out doing haymakers tonight, man.
Your country.
Yeah, but what I got out of that football game was, and a lot was made of it after the game, and we kind of wrote about this too. What the heck is wrong with Grambling's offense? Head coach Mickey Joseph mentioned after the game that he was considering replacing during the game Saturday preseason SWAC Offensive Player of the Year candidate Miles Crawley, because once again the O-line couldn't protect him. He wasn't making proper reads. He seemed to be shaky in the pocket, and he did not have an element of the dual threat that kind of like counterbalanced some of that. And so Grambling has dropped 2 straight. They're still alive for the SWAC West, but it's looking kind of dicey, Kim Rashad. You saw this game. What do you make of Grambling's issues, not just with Alcorn State, but with their team as a whole?
Well, first of all, let me just say this before anybody comes after me. To you Alcorn folks, when I called you country bastards, that came from a good place, okay? I meant that in a good way, okay? Because I know how, I'm just saying, I felt the need to clean it up because I say that in a friendly sense. You guys know.
That's what you call cleaning it up, calling it a whole.
Oh, hold on. Because I mean, look, Alcorn is country. You know. Now, some would say,
you play in a stadium called the Hole.
I get it. See, and I get it. Some folks want to say Grambling is country. Both of them are in very rural areas. Lorman, Mississippi is very rural. Grambling, Louisiana is very rural. The difference is, though, Grambling is sophisticated country. Alcorn is plain old country. There's a difference. Now, with respect to the game, put it like this. Things have gotten to the point right now where Mickey Joseph, for the first time, is now considering the possibility of going to a 2-quarterback system. And, you know, there's that saying, and Chris alluded to this early in the year when we've had this conversation, and, you know, John Madden said it, and this is, but there's a element of truth to it. that when you have to play two quarterbacks, it means that you don't have one. And, now there have been some instances where a two quarterback system works. Look at Alabama. They had Tua and they had what's the other guy?
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts won a national championship. Worked out for both of them. That's a very rare situation, though. But that's where we are right now. I gave kudos to Reed for his special teams play. Special teams has been very consistent during the duration of the year. Defense has been the primary reason why Grambling has been in the situations that it's in. This is the second game, two games in a row where they've lost by 2 points. And now a lot of Grambling folks are saying, you know what, damn it, we're 4 points away, or even 5 points away. 4 points away, or 4 points is the difference between us being 5-1 and 3-3. We lost this game by 2 points, and we lost the game in overtime, 5 overtimes with Prairie View by 2 points. And the one common denominator has been the offense. And, Mickey, he's saying all the right things, but at some point, man, at this point of the season, you tend to want to see improvement. And then, to be quite honest with you, in some of the situations that I've seen, there's been some slight regression if we're just going to keep it real. So no, you can go do 4 shot, but I'm just saying, man, I think that this is problematic, and don't be surprised next week when Grambling plays UAPB that Mickey ends up going with a 2 quarterback system.
Yeah, Mickey talked about the possibility of playing Ashton Fry, who's a redshirt sophomore, because he gives them that run element that Miles Crawley does not have. I looked it up, and Miles Crawley's longest run of the season has been 9 yards. Yeah. And now he's been banged up, and Crawley admitted it, and Mickey Joseph admitted it. But, I mean, pocket passes are rare in the modern era of college football, football anywhere for that matter. And you have a guy back there who's playing behind a poor offensive line and can't move around very much, and relies on being precision passer and hasn't been able to do it consistently at least the last 4 games. I think if Grambling wants to save the season, they probably have to think about it. But I don't know if Ashton Fry gives them the best chance to win moving forward. And it kind of like it's kind of a sad state of affairs when you think about it, because Miles Crawley is an upperclassman, and Big Joseph keeps saying like he needs to be better. He needs to be better in the pocket. These things you shouldn't be saying about an upper class quarterback who's supposed to be the top quarterback in the conference.
Yeah, Kendrick, but and I understand your point, but everybody has a role to play. We talk about how, a quarterback could only be as good as the receivers, or the receivers can only be good as the quarterback. Well, in this particular instance, and we've seen this has been a common denominator. There are some problems on that offensive line. There are some problems there. There is some youth there. There are some key players who are out and are not playing. But 6 games in, I understand your point. And while Miles has to take a burden, I guess understandably has to take a burden of the blame, a lot of it is due to pass protection or lack thereof. That's just an absolute truth. Now, if there is a bright side to any of this, for the first time this year, Grambling, the run game, this is the first time this past Saturday that the team rushed for over 200 yards. They had 209 yards rushing. And that may not seem like a whole lot, but when you put in consideration in games where they've rushed barely over 100, or maybe I think 150 something may have been the best that they had done prior to that. And in some cases where they can't even get over 100 yards rushing, to get 209 yards on the ground and actually, for them to be effective in doing so. Again, in many instances where there were some key runs that put them in scoring position, or at least put them in the red zone. And unfortunately, they just couldn't capitalize with touchdowns. They had to end up settling for field goals. if there is a bright spot to any of this with respect to the Grambling offense, the run game is it. Now you can hope there's that there's some improvement with that, but yeah, while a lot of blame probably has to go to Miles, and you're saying he's an upperclassman, but there's still a lot to be said about pass protection and offensive line play. And when you're constantly in a situation where you're running for your life, or you're not getting at some point it begins to create some kind of a mental breakdown. If you can't trust your line, then it can do things to you. So I get it, but I understand your rationale behind it. But I'm just simply saying that this all isn't on Miles. The O-line has to take some level of responsibility for that. And in many instances, now if there was one, if I would have to put some blame on Mickey Joseph and on Eric Dooley, that run past option may not necessarily be something that Miles needs to continue. They may need to go with some sort of some other scheme, because that run pass option just isn't working for him at this point. So maybe they want to stick with that scheme, and that's probably the reason why they're going to bring some, Fry in as a dual threat. But like I said, it is somewhat problematic that given where we are at this point of the season, that you have to go to possibly to a 2 quarterback system. That could be problematic.
Yeah, and speaking of scheme, today Mickey Joseph was asked during the Grambling press conference for his weekly press conference whether or not he will look at being more hands-on with the offense, because as we mentioned before, Eric Dooley is offensive coordinator, and I'm gonna share my screen and show you what he said in response to that. So just give me one quick second.
Oh, you got a segment?
Yes, I do. All right, here's what he said in regards to that.
Kind of the flip-flop in terms of styles of quarterbacks we saw this past week. I guess what do you see from him? I think the receiver 2 leads the FCS in yardage as well.
Oh yeah, 11. He was leaving Monticello, and I probably last, but it's very explosive offense. Tony Hall does a great job over there. We kind of know what to expect.
What happened, man?
Yeah, that's not it. But pretty much he said, hey, we just off the grill, man. We messing up too.
All right.
So pretty much he said like he would be more hands-on, and the fact of the matter is he mentioned in so many words that like he would instruct Eric Dooley to call the plays that he wants run and that'll be changed. So we know Eric Dooley took a lot of heat at Southern for the way the offense ran there and the development of their quarterbacks there. Is it a concern for the coach 6 games in to say something about how much hands-on he will be with offensive coordinator that he just hired?
Is that question to me, or
it's to anybody?
Okay. So is the question are you asking if Eric Dooley is a problem?
Yes.
No. I'm telling you that now. I do not. Look, I saw that look on Chris's face. I will say this. It's easy to blame the offense coordinator, but I've seen enough of this team during the course of the season to conclude one thing. Because people love to use it. It's horrible play calling. This has not been a situation of play calling. This has just been poor execution, period. It's been execution. And there's a distinct difference. When you've got a play that's designed for, a 5 or 7 step drop, and you can barely get 2 because you're just constantly being blitzed, it's not play calling. That's just execution. When you have, a core of running backs and they can barely average on the day when it's all said and done, barely 3 yards per carry. That's not play calling. That's execution. This is look, man. Eric Dooley, man. I don't know, and I'm not trying to defend him by any means, but the one thing that I will give Eric Dooley credit for is that when it comes to his offenses, when they work, they work. He's innovative. When his offense, he has a tendency to be, he has I've said this, he has a tendency to get into those grooves. And it's like, it's just play after play after play after play. This ain't Dooley. This is not Eric Dooley's issue. Because, and I had this conversation with someone, because if it were, I think I've seen enough for Dooley. If it were up to Dooley, and I remember when he was the offensive coordinator on the Fobs, Dr. Fobs used to always say, we want to play basketball on turf. Everything would be up tempo. That is not, this team does not play tempo at all. 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Let's go huddle. 6-yard completion. Let's go huddle. And then here we are. Okay, 5 seconds on the clock. Hurry up and run the play. Run the play. Eric Dooley doesn't do that, man. I think this is all Mickey. Now, he's the head coach, but I'm telling you guys now, and you guys feel free to say it's play calling. I'm telling you, it is not play calling. This is just poor execution. I'm not willing to just say that this is all play calling at this point. Guys, feel free.
I was
Chris.
ready. I was ready to say, a dearly departed family friend, whenever we would argue about sports, politics, whatever, and he would just say, it's against the law of averages. And what that means is it can't always be somebody else. So my theory about Dooley is it's against the law of averages that, this was his struggle at Southern, this was his struggle at Grambling. But then when you have your head coach saying that he's probably thinking about moving to a 6 to 7 man front to protect your quarterback, then yes, that is an execution issue. It's also maybe it's a recruiting issue. Maybe Mickey didn't have enough time to go out and get more offensive linemen, but whoever the quarterback for Grambling State University will be in 2025, they will need an offensive line to protect them, because whatever is working right now, whatever they have up front right now is just not working for Crawley. It's not going to work for Ashton Fry. It probably wouldn't work for Doug Williams. It probably wouldn't work for Shaq Harris either. So they literally have to go out and get some guys that are going to protect their quarterback. And when you have those sort of struggles, your offense is going to, not be good. And if you're trying to play basketball on turf, then by all means, you have to whip that ball around and not sit there and hold it like in the olden days when there wasn't a shot clock and just had the 4 corners and stall everybody out, because you're not going to win a game like that.
Yeah, I would agree. Mickey Joseph said, I asked him a couple weeks ago, like, would they run the ball more? He said, no, we're a pass first football team. They're not passing the ball very well.
Right.
They haven't the last couple weeks. So they got to do something different.
Yeah.
Chris, Jared, your thoughts on this?
I'll just say this. The game is won in one area, and not one area, but one primary area, and that is on the line of scrimmage. If you cannot win on the line of scrimmage, you are not going to win football games. That is at the Power 5 level. That's at the Group of 5 level, at the FCS level, Division II, Division III, NAIA, NCCAA. Name a level of football, including the pros. If you do not have an offensive line, as Chris said, it doesn't matter who's at your quarterback. Doesn't matter who's at your running back. If it doesn't matter who is your wide receivers are. It doesn't matter if they don't have the guys on the front line that are allowing you to let the play develop. When you're not able to go through your progressions, when you're not able to go through the schemes that you plan for on a play, that's a problem. And you say you want to be a pass first football team. Well, design plays that allow for your offensive line to be able to do their job and allow for the quarterback to be able to do his job. It may not be that you may have to go more run heavy. Maybe it's, put some design screens out there to get the ball out of his hands so that the offensive line doesn't have to hold a block for more than 3 seconds. Maybe you have to put in some designed runs for your wide receiver to get them some touches. Maybe you have to just, do shorter routes, do some routes up the seam, do some going outside the numbers. It looks great, but are you going to be able to hold the block long enough to let the play develop? Miles Crawley is an incredible talent, But right now, it does not look like he's put in a situation where he can succeed. Put your quarterback, who we have seen is talented, who we have seen has the ability to be an elite quarterback, put him in situations where he is allowed to succeed. Because right now he is not. And Grambling is suffering as a result. Because we know that defense ain't the problem. We know that ain't the problem.
Right.
So
special teams isn't a problem either.
At all.
Yeah.
So put your offense in a position to where they are able to execute at a high level night in and night out. Like you said, Kendrick, this is week 6.
Mm-hmm.
This is week 6. And the SWAC is slipping away from you. Alcorn State is 3-0 in the conference right now. Southern just improved to 2-0. So this conference is slipping away from you. This season is slipping away from you. Miles Crawley is going to be gone next year. I believe. I don't know how much eligibility he has left. But the team is not going to be the same this year as it was last year. The teams on that, the people on your defense, more than likely you're not going to be able to keep that defense together. So you got to capitalize on what you have now. Put your team in a place where they can succeed.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just showed that graphic, Sonic Boom 98 made the point. Yeah, they need quicker developing plays designed for an offensive line that doesn't block a long time, duly borrowing a prime playbook. I will just simply say this, which is why I said that run pass option doesn't work, because it requires the offensive line to hold blocks long enough so that Crawley can make the necessary read to determine whether I run, do I hand it off or do I pass? So yeah, it may require some sort of a jet sweep. It may require some screens. You know, we might need to see more of that. And there have been some instances of it, but you know, and yeah, you can say, you know, I mean, who was this? Someone said that, you know, yeah, Dooley has questionable play. You can always question play calling. Look, I question his play calling, doing those calls, doing those plays, doing that 5 overtime game against Prairie View. But I'm saying, but for the most part, this is about execution. It's about execution. So anyway.
Yeah, so in the last segment of the show, the time we got left, I actually want to talk about something that Kim Rashad broached to us last week to get a chance to get to. We're going to stay in the SWAC with this one. But over the weekend, Mississippi Valley State, they lost 54-17 to Alabama State. Their 6th straight loss of the season, their 2nd SWAC loss of the season. They actually jumped out to a 14-0 lead in this ball game, surprisingly. And then they gave up scores on every Alabama State drive after that to lose by the margin they did. And so this topic normally has come up.
Are we really going to talk about this?
Yes, 15 years or so that Mississippi Valley State may not be cut out, not only for the SWAC, but for Division I. They're 1-15 under Kendrick Wade Jr. And they haven't, before Kendrick Wade Jr., they were not a very competitive football team either. So you get yourself in trouble, man. I'm not trying to do anything for you. You're gonna hang yourself on this one.
I'm in trouble for calling all corn spokes bastards, which I don't mean. Come on, I mean it in a playful sense. Somebody said you call that, you think that's good, and Grambling is Metro. Wait a minute. Wait.
You called a black billionaire who doesn't care about
country bastard is good, and Grambling is metropolitan. I did not say Grambling was metropolitan. I just simply said we were just a tad bit sophisticated. That's all.
Okay, whatever you say.
Anyway. So okay. I'm just gonna call it, and I know some Valley folks are they're not gonna like this, but it's we just gotta call a spade a spade. And let me preface this before I make the point. You can probably make this argument for about 90% of the teams in the SWAC, but I'm gonna just say it because it needs to be said. Mississippi Valley State, you need to go to Division II. You are doing yourselves, your student athletes, that institution, the SWAC, and black folks in general, you are doing us no favors by trying to stay in Division I. Exactly right. WSSU Ram Nation, even they know. You got a CIAA budget. And you playing in the SWAC. You need to step down. The president, whoever the governing body is at the IHL in Mississippi. I mean, look, at some point, this, and I'm dead serious about this, because, we all talk about fiscal responsibility and so forth, man. There is no need in and year out, constantly fielding Division I teams. And and from what I understand, most of the time, none of your programs have the maximum number of scholarships. You're always operating at a deficit because you can't afford more scholarships. So why do you continue to stay here? It's time to do the responsible thing. It's time to do the responsible thing. You need to move. You need to leave the SWAC. You need to go to Division II. I don't care what any one of you Valley folks say. It ain't like, it's not like it's been a 5-year trend. It's not like it's been a 10-year trend. This shit has been like a 50, 60-year trend. Excuse the expression. I wasn't supposed to say. God damn it. Anyway.
That's how far
this is not just some trend that just happened all of a sudden. And everybody plays you, and they just automatically assume we're playing Valley. It's going to be a win.
In every sport at that.
Every sport. Granted, the non-revenue sports tend to do a little better because it's non-revenue. It's not costing you any money. But football being what it is, and I understand why you probably stay. You probably stay in Division I because of the possibility of, it's that basketball revenue. That's why a lot of these teams. But look, plain and simple, y'all need to move. Y'all need to go on. I understand that might be problematic for the SWAC, and we might have to deal with an 11-team conference to get somebody in, but y'all need to go.
Here's my thing. Valley, as Ken said, has not really been the salt of the earth in the SWAC since the days of Jerry Rice and Willie Satellite Totten. I mean, they won the SWAC that year, 1984. That was 40 years ago. My coworkers to the right of me were not born. The boss beneath me was in high school. I was a toddler. So Valley has not been good for a very long time. But the question for Valley is, and I want to save something for my closing remarks, no Steve Harvey, but where do they go? Because I doubt a Division II PWI conference is going to take them, and the SIAC is just too far east. I mean, yes, they have Alabama schools, but who from Edward Waters in Jacksonville, Florida, is trying to make that trip to Itabena, Mississippi?
Who Central State is affiliated with who?
Good point.
Okay, so
I don't think
they're not that far east.
I totally forgot.
No, they're not that far east.
I've totally forgot. So yes, maybe Mississippi Valley State can join the SIAC and make that a super Division II HBCU conference. But right now in the SWAC, they're not hitting on nothing. I mean, the last good program they had was the men's basketball team when they were coached by Sean Woods, and then they ended up getting him out of the paint. So it's like, I mean.
Oh, Xfinity got you, bro.
Chris's face stuck just like that. But that's exactly how Valley. That's exactly how everybody looking when we. Valley, what are you doing? But Valley's last winning season in football was 2006.
Okay, see, look, man. I mean, this ain't even funny no more. So it's not a popular thing to say. But when we put in consideration the overall mission of HBCUs, because as we all agree, HBCUs weren't created for the purpose of having championship football programs. You aren't doing the school a service. You're not doing those student athletes a service. You're not even doing the community a service. You need to step down. You need to step down and try to compete at a lower level.
I don't even think that. I don't think that's going to be good enough. I don't look at the last 2 seasons. Before this year, they had lost to Central State, and they've lost their last 2 against Delta State, which is a Division II powerhouse. Don't get me wrong. Delta State is a very good Division II program, but they've lost games to Division II teams. So I think this is just beyond them. And by the way, I would just love to talk more about Division II football. I don't want this to be about Mississippi Valley State, dropping down to D2, because that makes it look like D2 is a step down. It is not a step down. We have three teams.
It's not.
No.
We have 3 teams at HBCU football this year that could potentially be in the Division II playoffs. The CIAA champion, the SIAC champion, and West Virginia State, who could potentially win the Mountain East this year. We have D2 guys from D2 HBCUs who are in the NFL. Emmanuel Wilson, who is balling out for the Green Bay Packers. Joshua Williams is a 2-time Super Bowl champion with the Kansas City Chiefs. So for everybody thinking that this is just going to be a step down for Mississippi Valley State, they're going to have to put on their work clothes and go to work down here too, by the way.
Yeah.
They're going to have to go to work here too. If you think that you're going to have the mentality that they have now, and they're just going to go down to D2 and going to have success, you're sadly mistaken.
So Jared, Jared, just respectfully, let me put it like this, because you're right. I don't want to necessarily look at this as a way of saying that D2 is low, but in the case of Mississippi Valley, let's just say for Mississippi Valley State, D1 is too damn high.
Yeah,
you have no business being a D1 institution. Period.
And I'm going to agree with you, and I'm going to go a step further and say, whatever level you're at, your mentality is not going to work no matter what. The mentality that they have is not working. I don't know what it is that's not working, but it's not working at all across all sports. It is not working. We literally got excited during basketball season about their announcers when they won their first game. That was the most excitement that Mississippi Valley State has had in athletics in a long time.
Ooh, no, you didn't just say that. Ooh, that I get. Wow. NAIA might be the answer. Wow.
And even then, they still might not be good enough, because the mindset is not there. The mindset is not there for change to happen.
Well, look, didn't they? What I think the recent they made what they got turf.
They got a
new scoreboard. They got a damn 250-piece marching band, but so does Talladega, right? I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
I'm gonna give you a golf clap for that.
But still, that does nothing to move the bar. And I guess arguably speaking, with respect to the turf and the scoreboard, and granted, look, I'm not trying to nitpick, but at the very least, you should already have that. And the reason why you didn't have it before is because you didn't have the money to get it before now. It's okay. The thing is, it's not like it's unprecedented. We've seen it happen before. Savannah State did it. Winston-Salem did it. They took the responsible step. They tried to compete at the Division I level. Said, you know what, this is too damn expensive. They went down to Division II. And look at Savannah State now. They're competitive.
Winston-Salem State went to Division II title game as soon as they went back.
Yeah, right, exactly right. So, I mean, it's not like it's something that is unprecedented that we hadn't seen before. But, I did not know. Just so you guys know, I did not know we were going to talk about this. And so
Kendrick
just kind of sprung it on us. But, hey, it's a conversation that needs to be had.
That was his October surprise. We've seen a lot of October surprises, but this is Kendrick's October surprise. One thing I will say, because Xfinity counts your days, boy. Who I tell you. I mean, I literally was just about to get on the phone and cuss some poor rep out, but then I was like, you know what, I'm gonna chill because it's Monday, things happen. But we have to start. And Tiger Nation, the undefeated, probably makes a point that we are not really privy to because, of course, Kendrick is based in North Carolina, Ken is in Texas, Jarrett's in the DMV, I'm in Delaware. He says Valley will not leave the swag. There are some political ramifications connected with the Republican-dominated Mississippi legislature that would make this untenable. And I am going to err on the side of deferring to Tiger Nation, the undefeated, because we don't know what's going on in Mississippi. I mean,
it's always political. I don't deny that, especially it being a state-supported school.
Yeah, Brett Favre stole a ton of money. That's all we know about Mississippi at this point.
Well, no, but I think I've told the story before. Way back in the day, back when Rudy Washington was the commissioner of the SWAC, and for whatever reason, he felt. I think I told you guys he felt the need to call me all kinds of times of the night. Just wanted to talk back in the SWAC page days, and he told me how he single-handedly made the offer for Tennessee State to become a football member only member of the SWAC. Say, hey, you don't want to bring the whole program, just give me football. And for political reasons, Tennessee State declined. So it's like I said, because Valley's a state-supported school, I'm pretty certain that politics play a role in these type of decisions. But that still doesn't remove the fact that they need to move. But I hear you. It's a fair point.
Yeah, the point I was going to continue to make is that we can talk about just how bad Valley is. We can talk about just how bad other HBCUs in different states are from an athletic standpoint, even an academic standpoint. Fact of the matter is that we are still dealing that these schools are mostly in red states. And yes, I'm making this political. If you don't want to hear political jargon, you can lump me in with Obama. I mean, brother's been blaming Obama for the last 3-4 business days because he asked them to just be kinder to Kamala Harris. So if you Negroes want to lump me in with Obama, be my guest. I'm a little too dark for that, but I will gladly say change has come to America. But yes, I'm making this political. Most of our HBCUs are in red states, and red states are run by racists, fascists, idiots that have nothing better to do than just turn their eye to the issues of people of color. And HBCUs are people of color issue. Make no mistake about it. I mean, we've run stories about how Tennessee State has been owed probably $1 billion in the last 50 years, how Alabama A&M has probably been owed nearly $500 million. And the governor says, oh, they misread the books. And it's like, how can you accuse somebody of misreading the books? But that's just how these red states run. That's where a lot of our HBCUs are based. And why would people who are dyed in the wool, trained, generational racists? I mean, these are people who still probably call black people moon crickets, for crying out loud. So if you think that these folks are going to let Mississippi Valley State, get any sort of footing, then you're sadly mistaken. I mean, it sucks, but that's the reality of it. I mean, we're talking about Brett Favre and the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase. Those of you who are wrestling fans, you know exactly who I'm talking about. I would do the laugh, but my throat's a little scratchy. I used to be able to do the Ted DiBiase laugh. Maybe I'll do it another day. But these two fools have stolen millions of dollars from Mississippi welfare. Money that could have gone to different institutions like Valley that could use the help. But they're not going to do that. And these folks in Favre and DiBiase are not really going to face any real criminal, consequences for it because they're in red states. I mean, that's where most of our HBCUs are based. And that's why a lot of these schools are suffering right now because they just don't have the money and the folks that are in charge won't give them the money. So yes, we can talk about how bad Valley stinks, but we need to know that there's some real sinister implications as to why they stink.
Yeah, for a school like Valley that's been stinking for as long as they stunk, like there is no incentive from the legislature to give them more money not to stink.
Exactly.
And
I did want to. I mean, are we done here? Because I did want to make a closing remark.
We're done. So Chris did something special over the weekend, so he can talk about it right now. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I ain't talking about Stevie. We talking HBCU though. If you want to see my Stevie Wonder stuff, you can go to my personal YouTube page.
You know what? Go ahead, man, and plug that right now.
All right. So thanks to Ken Rashad, who has encouraged me to really step up my personal branding. I have a personal YouTube page /podcast where I talk about music, sports, society. I've even gotten into the dating stuff because as a single man in his early 40s in Delaware, it's a struggle. So I talk about that stuff. So go to youtube.com/@Chris Stevens Writes, ChrisStevensWrites. Be sure to give me a subscription. I talk about some good stuff over there. I have guests from time to time. It's a good time. But yes, if you want to see my Stevie stuff, go over there. But I did want to say one thing about another football program that people can help not playing. And I'm talking about the Washington Generals.
I knew it was coming.
Of black college football. Virginia University of Lynchburg.
I knew it was coming.
And this is something that I want to get off my chest to everybody that has played VUL over the last 5 to 10 years. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
Amen.
There is no reason, none, that you should be playing a school that, granted, I wrote a story. I talked to a former running backs coach and recruiter about the foolishness that was going on at VUL. And I just don't understand why North Carolina Central and Trey Oliver, I'm not in the business of questioning Trey Oliver. I mean, this is a brother who has won MEAC championships, Celebration Bowls, has been to the FCS playoffs. Again, like I said, when I was a student at Delaware State, he was a defensive backs coach. This is who he's always been. He's always been, brash. He's always been able to tell it like it is. But there was absolutely no reason for them to play Virginia University of Lynchburg at this point in their season. Oh, shout out to KD. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yes. Like I said, if you Negroes want to lump me in an Obama and get mad because we're asking black men to vote, do so. I don't give a damn. But yes, back to the point of VUL. HBCU football teams of a higher level. I'm talking Division I. I mean, I would even venture to say that the top Division IIs, like I would be disappointed if Clark, if Miles, if Virginia State or Virginia Union or Johnson C. Smith or Bowie were playing VUL. Because that's beneath them. Because VUL is a program that has never been on solid footing, will never be on solid footing, and you need to stop giving them any sort of resources to continue that sham of a football program. If you want to play an NAI school, cool. If you want to play a NCCA school, AA school, whatever that conference is, the Christian colleges, cool. But VUL is a scam. Yep. It is a scam of an institution. It is a scam of a football team. And the only thing it makes you do is look like the bullies that we are trying to perpetuate, that we're trying to fight, instead of, being bullies that it's making y'all look like the bullies that we're trying to fight, basically. So that's my closing remark for the week. I really just want people to understand that VUL, Lincoln, California, which we still don't know if that.
I was going to say add them to that list too.
Yeah, because I know Savannah State played them. I mean, I can't fault Lincoln and Missouri. They needed a win, for crying out loud. Shout out to Lincoln and Missouri. They snapped a 42-game losing streak by beating Lincoln and California. But let me be clear about this: you HBCUs at a Division I level or at a competitive Division II level that are playing VUL or Lincoln, California, stop it. It's pointless. There's absolutely nothing to be gained from it. Yes, you get the stat pad. Yes, you get to, get your third, fourth, and fifth guys. You get to get your scout team on the field. Because it's not going to help you, when you come back into conference play. All you are is just another means to an end for a program that is just running one long Ponzi scheme. This is like Bernie Madoff for black people. And people don't understand that VUL is just in this to just scam and scam away. So please, for the love of all that is holy, find you a decent y'all should be playing Florida Memorial. I mean, Florida Memorial with Bobby Roman II is playing some doggone good football at an NAIA level. Bring Langston in. Langston is good. Texas College has just restarted their program. They're doing pretty good. Bring them in. VUL in Lincoln, California serve no purpose. And it's just like, why are y'all doing this? Like, there's no reason for this. So I just want, Tiger Nation. I mean, it's been one of them days, man. I just had to get that. I had to get that off my chest. But yes, please,
I'm going to echo what you said, but I want to say this. I could understand if you're playing VUL in Lincoln, California, and you put your bench in and your starters don't play at all. I don't understand having your starters in the game against Lincoln, California, and Virginia University, Lynchburg, other than to get some cardio. That's all they're doing is getting cardio. They can get cardio if you could have the bench in playing the VUL and Lincoln, California starters, and then if you have a track on your field, let them run around the track to get some cardio. They don't have to play against VUL or Lincoln, California and risk getting injured. Playing against a team you know you're going to beat.
Oh my!
You know you are going to beat them. What's the point? They had one glimmer of hope when they won 2 games in a row last year, and we had to give them a standing ovation because they ain't did that in God knows how long. But there is no reason other than to give your bench guys, your walk-ons, give them some playing time. Cool, great. Why do you have your starters in? Like you said, Chris, they look like a bunch of bullies that we're trying to fight. There's no reason when you're putting them in danger. You're putting the other team in danger.
Hey, man, that's a great point. It's a great point.
This game is dangerous regardless of who you put out there.
Great point.
Why are you risking putting the guys that you need to be in your lineup when you're trying to compete for a championship in a game that you know you're going to win no matter who you put out on the field? Shoot, you can put your president out there. You can put your assistant AD out there. They're going to beat VUL. There's no reason to put your starters out there.
Ram Nation, just look, man. It is a seminary school, isn't it? I just come on, man.
Look, I mean, no disrespect.
That school made ESPN because of that game, Ken.
Oh yeah, look.
And I want to give all my love to the people at VUL. At the end of the day, they're still an HBCU,
right?
So we're not trying to come down on you. Because you do need to do better. You do need to do better. When it comes to not just your play on the field, but when it comes to organizationally. Within the front office. But this is mostly about the teams who are making these boneheaded decisions to play them, and they're not doing it for the right reasons. It's just another schedule fill out. Like Chris said, get a top level D2 team. There's plenty of them.
Yep.
And a bunch of them are within your area. Play them. Schedule a out of conference game against an FCS opponent. Get you a Northwestern State. Get you a Central Arkansas. I don't believe is FCS, but anyway, get them. They're in your area. Get them. There's plenty of schools in Florida. There's plenty of schools in Alabama. There's plenty of schools in Texas. There's plenty of schools in Mississippi. Play them. You ain't got to play a team that you know you're going to beat unless you're just trying to give your bench guys some confidence in their first collegiate action.
It's that, and they can do it for dirt cheap too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's really they're dirt cheap. All of those schools that you just named, Jared, they'll probably have to pay a little bit more.
Fair.
But the reason why they're playing VULs is because it's dirt cheap to do so.
Then, like I said, play your bench guys, play your walk-ons, give them their first taste of college football. But why are you playing your starters other than to, like I said, get some cardio? That's literally all they're doing, and putting the VUL players at risk who they know they couldn't handle at all at full speed.
Yeah, Jared sounded like Brady Quinn when he found out Notre Dame was going to play Tennessee State. This is beneath Notre Dame to play Tennessee State. We're Notre Dame. Yeah. That's how you sound, Jared Hoffman, right there. But Ken Rashad said the thing you always say at the end of the show to let people know how to find us and donate to us.
Give us your money. Okay. There are a couple of ways you can give us. You see the details down there scrolling. You can go to hbcusports.com/donate. You have a Zelle option available. You can go to donate. You can Zelle us at donate@hbcusports.com. And if you want to become a level 1, level 2, or level 3 member, by all means, hit the join button and become a member, and we will make sure we will give you appropriate shout outs and make sure that you become entitled to a number of other perks. So by all means, look, support the channel. We hope you enjoy our content, and we'll continue to provide you with content with lively debates and all other shenanigans that tend to happen on these internet airways from time to time, including calling out BUL and Mississippi Valley and
Lincoln in California.
And black billionaires.
and black billionaires. I'm done. Take us home, Kendrick.
Yeah, be sure to join us on Wednesday night for our roundtable. Hopefully, we'll have the full crew. We'll definitely talk Division II football then, Ram Nation. We'll definitely sneak in WSSU during that period at some point during the show. And we have fun at the end, too, like we always do. I'm Kendrick. That's Chris. He's Jared Hoffman. And still G. Kim Rashad. See you Wednesday. We're out.